Hi there. You caught me brewing up another batch of my radioactive ale. I promised I would brew some and then I promised I'd share the recipe, but I wanted to get through one batch first before I did either one. So here goes, the recipe for radioactive ale. We're going to start with 4 gallons of spring water. Spring water, not purified, not distilled, and not out of the tap. Tap water has fluoride and other stuff in it that can make the beer taste bad. Won't spoil the beer, it just won't make it taste very good. Here we have our grains, or our mash. We're looking right now at 5.5 pounds of pale ale malt, 2.5 pounds of caramel malt, and 1/2 pound of chocolate Bresse malt. These are grains that have been milled together by my brew people. Put in this bag for me, and we're going to put these into a brewing bag, like a great big old tea bag, and then we're going to steep it for several minutes. I love the smell of this stuff. This is what the beer is going to smell like when we're done. It just smells great. It has a barley, kind of a chocolatey smell to it. Then our hops. We have 2 different types. The first type is British East Kent hops. The hops are basically a flour that is then concentrated and milled into these pellets. The hops give the beer the aroma, the aftertaste, and also or what make beer taste like beer to balance out the sweet starchiness of the malt. And then our second type of hop is the U.S. Fuggle hop. It's a little greener, a little brighter, and it has a lot more of a citrusy smell to it. We're going to throw in 1 pound of brown sugar, pure cane sugar if you can get a hold of it at a health food store. And then finally, 1 container of British ale yeast. You can see the number WLP005. That's this particular type of yeast. It comes in this tube. It has to be refrigerated, taken out, brought up to room temperature before you use it. I like to get out my Cajun cooker to do this because I can do it outside in case there's a mess. Plus, I'm making 5 gallons of beer at a time. Got the propane connected and the burner on high. We're going to bring 4 gallons of our spring water up to 168 degrees. And we know that it's 168 degrees because we've got a probe thermometer in there that's telling us where we are. And that 158 that I have programmed in there on the left, that's going to be our temperature at which we steep. So when we drop the grain in, which right now is hovering at about 72 degrees out here today, it's going to drop that 168 down. And then we're going to have to adjust our temperature on our fire a little bit to try to keep that temperature between 168 and 150. Again, it's like a great big tea bag and a big tea kettle, and we're going to let that steep for 40 minutes. 40-minute steep time. Every now and then I'll come out and I'll bring the bag up and down a little bit, like you would a big tea bag. Our thermometer is right at 168 degrees. So let's go ahead, here's our bag of grain, and drop it into steep. Let it get nice and saturated. And there it goes. Put it in there. There goes my thermometer again. And because we're working at pretty high temperatures here, and we're going to boil this mixture in a minute, you know, the fact that this is open to the air is okay. There's no sanitary problems here. I might need to get some tongs out here in a minute to get that mesh bag up and down because it's going to get hot. We're about 10 minutes into our steeping process, but this is a good sign. You see the foam that's starting to form? That's the starches coming up out of the grains. No, it's not fizziness, but it is foam that shows that the process is working. And then we're going to put the yeast and other ingredients in and let it ferment. Our steeping process is done, and we've got a nice, good, dense looking dark brew. Now I know that looks a little more like a stout than an amber or an ale. We're going to add some more water to this later to kind of dilute it a bit. Now we put in our hops. I'm going to put in the East Kent hops, and we're going to put in our brown sugar and let that get to going. We're going to boil this now for a good hour at a good rolling boil. Then we've got to cool it down real quick because we don't want it to be too warm when we put the yeast in because that'll kill the yeast. I've got a kind of a secret way to do that other beer makers may shudder at, but it works for me and it may work for you. And that's also when we'll put the other hops in for aroma. These hops are for flavor, next hops are for aroma. Let's get boiling. Okay, so our mixture, which is now officially called Vert, as the Germans say, is at a good rolling boil. We're going to let that go for another 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so now we've got our pot boiling back there. We're going to let that go a little while. Let's talk a little bit about fermentation. This is our fermentation bucket. We will use this interesting pump device to pump the stuff out after we cool it into this bucket. And we will seal it with this sealed lid and use this bubbler, which we put a little bit of water in to keep it airtight. As the fermentation continues over 2 weeks, the carbon dioxide will bubble up through this bubbler, but not let air back down in there to aerate the beer, because we don't want the air, from here on out, we don't want any more air. We do need to sanitize all of this stuff that's in this bucket with a bleach solution, because up until now, everything's been at high temperature, killing anything that could be harmful. But from here on out, it's going to be kind of hit or miss, so we want to make sure it's good and sanitized. I'm about to go do that now while it's still boiling. Okay, it's been almost an hour. We've got about 5 minutes left. So this is where we kill the heat, let the boil stop. Our second hops, these are the Flageol's hops. And I'm not going to put the whole thing in there because I just don't like my beer to be bitter. Where's my little stirrer? Here it is. I'll stir that in. And we'll let that steep for 5 minutes. As I mentioned before, we've been doing this now at about 212 degrees, and that is not conducive to what yeast likes to live in. Yeast needs somewhere around 72 degrees. So the thing now is, after our 5 minutes steep, we need to bring that temperature down, and we need to do it quickly. There's a way you can. There's a coil that you can buy at your brew shop that you help aerate the beer and cool it down real quickly, and that's an investment. I may get one of those later on, but I found a better way. I've backed off on my water by 2 gallons, and I'm going to throw in 2 gallons of ice. Cools it right down right quick. I know some brewmasters out there cringing. Works for me, though. So here's our little pump device, and it's siphoning the vert down into the fermenter. And then we'll add the yeast, seal it up, and let nature take its course. Okay, so here is our vert. We've got a little whisk here. I'm just going to I'm going to whisk in our yeast that we've got. Now here's the thing about yeast. And I don't know if I can do this and hold the camera at the same time. It comes in this little tube. We bring it up to room temperature. You got to shake it up in this solution. And then when you open it, it's going to let out a little pop because there's carbon dioxide in here. Okay, we're all sanitized. Got the inside lid of this sanitized. I've attached our little bubbler. Put that down on here. Gonna go put this in the bathtub just in case there is some sort of leak or something. That way it'll be contained. And in 2 weeks we bottle and drink.